Are you thinking about making a podcast? Spotify has a platform that lets you make one, and if I can figure it out, you definitely can too. You can create your own content all in one place for free with zero hangups and even earn money as soon as you get started. Spotify lets you record and edit episodes from your phone or computer so you can go mobile, just like I enjoy to do. My favorite thing about it is that you can create video episodes if you wish and upload them to wherever podcasts are heard. You can even set up subscriptions, or if you're like me, listener support options for listeners to help you grow. I 10 out of 10 recommend the Spotify for Podcasters app. Or, why don't you just step over to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started on your own podcast.
This is a general trigger warning. The things we're going to be talking about are going to be including domestic violence, suicide, and ultimately childhood trauma. I hope that you take something away from this as much as I have. All right, everybody, welcome back. I'm super excited for this. Not to talk about the details, but to be reunited with this individual. I spent time in the military with this person. She is strength. She is diligence. She's a kind person. And I'm very, very happy that she has taken the steps to retake her life after these horrific events. I cannot put into words the time and effort it takes to re-give yourself control of your life. Sadly, domestic violence is something that is a black stain on this country and on this earth. 1 in 3 women have suffered some form of DV, and 1 in 6 men. And that's just the type that is reported. We're not even talking about how many the actual number is. So I honestly am sad to share this with you, but happy to show you where you can go once you're in that horrible situation. It's not over. You can get through it. And hopefully, if you're listening and you're in a bad situation, this gives you a couple ideas of how to get out of it. I'm going to be posting links in the description. If you're in a tough situation and you don't know how to escape or get out of it, you don't have to call. You can just text this number. Also, I do encourage you to stay here on this earth because there's nothing that you've experienced to this point that you can't grow from. One of the great things about my guest is that she definitely describes the lowest of the low in her not choosing to end her own life. That is the most important thing because every time you do not end your life, you're gifting yourself a reason to keep going. I could have ended it, but I'm still here. One more day is all it takes. Getting to that next day is a great thing. So if you're struggling with mental health and you don't want to be here, I'm glad you are, and I'm glad you're listening. Let's get into this. All right, everybody, welcome back to Off the Deep End Podcast. I am your Not As Injured as Before host, and I'm sitting here with someone who wishes to remain anonymous, and that is her perspective, and it will be respected, of course. So why don't we get straight into it, Mrs. Unnamed Lady? Why don't you tell me your story?
Okay, so hello everybody. I served with Larry. If you guys end up figuring out who I am, that is totally okay. If you want to reach out, that is totally okay. I just want to protect certain individuals who will be part of this, and I'm doing it for them. So basically, I was in the Navy 4 years. And around my 2nd year in, I was still, I didn't have any like petty officer ranking. I ended up meeting a man who was in the same department. He seemed very quiet, very calm at first, very reserved, and I liked him. We started dating, everything escalated really fast. I started to get a lot of drama from my chain of command once I made rank. Because now I was, 1 rank higher than him.
Mhm.
And I think everyone could start to see the toxic stuff coming out in the relationship. So everything was fine at first, peaches, everything was super calm. Once we moved in together, everything kind of shifted and shifted really fast. I remember it was a Halloween. It was at a Halloween party, best party I've ever been to, by the way. One of our mutual friends, his girlfriend at the time, asked me a personal question in front of this boyfriend. And I wasn't comfortable with her knowing that information yet, so I told her a lie. But little did I know that this was going to turn into something really big. So basically, he would not let it go, the answer that I gave her. And I kept that answer because he was starting to scare me, right? He already got me, he would, get very loud, and he would start like smashing things, like punching a wall or like throwing remotes and like
Destructive
throwing the
behavior.
phone. Yes. And I was like, oh, well, now I can't say the truth. Like this is getting scary. I kept my lie. I kept my lie for a long time. And then this individual started to get more and more controlling. Control who I had on social media, control whose phone number was in my phone, who I could talk to at work and who I couldn't. We were literally together 24/7. We would go get breakfast, lunch, and dinner on the ship, go to the gym, go home, sleep, and it was the same thing every day. I lost connection with a lot of friends, and that was okay with him. That's what he wanted. Now, little did I know, though, that all these people he had me cut off, like exes and just longtime friends, those rules didn't apply to him. Yeah, so he still had all his exes, everyone from his hometown, like pictures from his past. He would make me delete every single picture from my past.
Yeah, completely overwhelming control, a need to control, pushing off his insecurities onto you is some of the things I'm hearing.
Oh yeah. So there was a website called Photobucket. Did you ever hear of that? Okay, so I used to keep a lot of pictures there from middle school, high school, just it didn't matter. The pictures were just there. It was just a storage website, right? He had me delete the entire thing. So I lost pictures that to this day I'm like, man, I really wish I had that picture. But he could totally have his pictures. That was fine with him. So the more controlling he got, the more I started, just shutting down. I wouldn't share big things with him anymore. And if he did find out something, it was a big deal. Why didn't I tell him? Why didn't I bring it up sooner? And I'm like, I didn't think it was a big deal. Just didn't think it was a big deal. So to him, that was lying. So this is when he started the throwing the things around the room started to become the throwing all those things at me.
Oh no.
Yeah. And then it escalated to cornering me into like a wall or into our bedroom and basically start like holding me like trapped, where he would be in my face, arms up, he would spread his legs so that I couldn't like go under or anything. And if I would just stay quiet, because obviously I'm freaked out, like what is happening right now, he would start putting his hands around my neck. And I'm like, okay, what is happening right now? Because when I first met him, he was so quiet and calm and he would just joke around. And I'm like, what is happening right now? Who is this person? So I was like, okay, maybe he just doesn't really like liars. And then I would start kind of blaming myself, right?
So you directed all the negativity and the overwhelming sense of his need to fulfill something that was missing for him. He directed it all towards you, and you started to start redirecting those and allowing that to hurt yourself?
Yeah, I would he would manipulate it to where I would blame myself for everything. Like,
Mm,
"Oh, I lied, so of course he's mad," you know? Or like, "Oh, I took too long talking to one of the other petty officers instead of going and rushing and meeting him right after our break." It was that bad. Um, and he questioned everything, everything. We were on the same ship, same department,
mm-hmm.
and he questioned everything. And he made me cut off other petty officers. Any relationship that I had that was not him, it was done. It didn't exist anymore.
I'm so sorry. That's absolutely horrible.
Yeah. And of course I had my chain of command, you know, like, "You stop it, stop it." And they would, you know, they would hold a lot of like meetings with just me, you know, get me like in the stern dock, and they're like, "Hey, come on, you have to stop. Like, you have to let this go." And I'm like, "You guys are just haters. You guys are just not happy for me. I'm very happy. I'm in love, blah, blah, blah." I was so oblivious. Um, so basically things would start getting worse and worse. Their interrogations would get worse. I remember one birthday that I had. We went out to dinner, and then that was it. We went out to dinner, came back to our little apartment, and I was like, "Okay, well, I guess I'll just have beers by myself in my house on my birthday." So we just started having beers. I started playing some Hispanic music. Now, he wasn't of my race.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was Caucasian. Um, he didn't like when I would play Spanish music because he didn't understand the lyrics or like what was being said and why I was singing it so passionately. Now, even if I told him what the song was about, he didn't believe me. So this birthday, I already, you know, was a couple of drinks in. I'm singing at the top of my lungs, just trying to enjoy my birthday. And he wasn't having it. He ends up screaming and lunging after me. I go and I lock myself in the bathroom. He ends up breaking the door and, you know, us, you know, beating me. I'm already like a couple beers in, and at this point, everything was so bad. Like prior to this, we couldn't go anywhere with friends. Like we could go out with his best friend and his girlfriend, but we couldn't go anywhere with my set of friends. His friend liked to go to like that one club in Virginia Beach. It was like Eagle's Nest. It was like the big country bar thing.
Oh, okay. A country bar. Okay. I was about to say
Yeah,
these guys
it
went
was
out
like
to the club. Like we're yeah. Is that what they were
no,
saying?
it was like Eagle's Nest where you just did like line dancing and there was like three different
Oh, okay.
DJs or
So
something.
stuff. So they were. He was so pretty much. So from what I understand, he was super into being able to feel close to his culture and his roots and his home, but he didn't
Yep.
feel comfortable. Maybe he felt a little bit inferior, that he didn't want you to have your experience with your culture. Because I know me and my wife and our family, we love other cultures. We don't
Mm-hmm.
believe in oh, well, I don't understand it, so it's not me. I want to understand it.
Mm-hmm.
If I go to a different country or a different area, I want to experience whatever's there. I want to
Mm-hmm.
dance with an old lady. I want to figure something out, right? I
That
want
wasn't
to.
him.
That wasn't him. No.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
Did his friend at the time know that this erratic, pathetic behavior was continuing at the time?
No.
No.
They knew that he was jealous. Him and his girlfriend. They knew that he was very jealous, and then that was it.
Okay, but not to the point of violence, which
No.
it had escalated to very quickly.
No, but they will soon find out, and I'll share that.
Okay.
So basically, we would like I would just be standing there staring at the DJ or the live band. And I remember this one time, another Hispanic guy just literally walked by me. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
And out of nowhere, he comes from behind me and he's like, you fucking bitch. I saw you look at him. you see another Hispanic person and you're already gawking him. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Mhm.
And he's like, you're just a fucking bitch, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, my fun is over.
Mhm.
Let's go. And
Yeah.
at this point, you know, his best friend's girlfriend was like, you need to go before he like starts a scene. And I'm like, okay. So we leave and he's literally opening the car doors, jumping out in the middle of the street, grabbing the steering wheel, like making the steering wheel go left and right, and we're going all over the road. And thank God it was like 2 a.m. and there was nobody on the road, because if anybody saw this, I don't, like, you know, civilian police would have completely taken over. I don't know what would have happened with us.
Oh, I'm sure a lot of things would have happened. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I have a lot of buddies who are cops, and they can understand certain situations where people need to be separated very quickly.
hmm
Yeah.
And part of me always wished that just somebody would see this, you know, but he was so good at keeping this stuff like hush hush, and like where there was nobody to see, nobody I could talk to, nobody, like nothing. I was so like in a little bubble. So after this birthday party, right, like the hitting and the humiliating and the controlling was so bad, I spazzed. I spazzed really bad. And I went into a big defense mode. And he was like forcing me to go to bed. And I'm like, I am not going to bed. It's my birthday. I want to listen to music. Like, it's my birthday. And
Mhm.
he had already, you know, done his harm in the bathroom and broke our whole door. And I got really defensive and I punched him twice. And I gave him 2 black eyes.
Oh, that's where they came from.
That, yeah, I know. Everyone who, who saw that, yeah. Um, so the next morning, he wakes up and he's like bawling. And I'm like in the kitchen just like washing dishes. And he comes in and I look at his face and I'm like, oh my God, what happened to you? And he's like, you did this. You did this to me. You don't love me. Look how you treat me. And I'm like, I just started laughing. I started laughing. And then I started crying because I realized he turned me into him, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? All his insecurities, all his anger, all his hate was now me. And I was becoming the same monster he was. And of course, we have to go to work. The CEO sees him. And he's like, whoa, what happened to your face? And he's like, oh, it was a bar fight, sir. And this is when like my senior chief was like, what is going on in your life right now? Like, what is happening? And I'm like, can you please get him away from me? Put him in another department. I need him away from me. Um, and I told my senior chief, I'm like, he's jumping out of cars, senior. Like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what's going on. And he just kind of stayed quiet and he's just like, okay, okay. Next thing I know, he's in another department.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember what I got told when the situation happened. I got told a lot of things at first. He slept pretty close to me in the birthing. And all I saw was his face, and I was like, "Hey man, is the other guy jacked up?" And he's like, "Yeah, man, you know, fight at the bar or whatever." And I could tell that something was off. And then we
Oh
got
yeah.
and then we got told a select few people who weren't POs and who were POs were instructed to make sure that if he's around you, if he shows up around you, just do whatever you need to do to get him away from you. And
Mm-hmm.
we had protective integers in place if we were to find out that happened. We step up and
Yeah.
step in. And um, I say this just like a lot of other people. A lot of us have a life before the Navy. We can sit here and pretend we're, you know, innocent little people who just want to be straight A students and get great in the Navy. But a lot of the people in our department, they came from some rough areas: Chicago,
Yes.
Hilltop,
Yes.
Tacoma, San Francisco. Sorry, not San Francisco. What's that place? What's that place in California where it's all bad? I don't know. I don't go to California. Fuck the California. But places like Compton, Los Angeles, places like that, and they're from a different world where if you harm a woman, you know, hope somebody has mercy on you because God isn't and we aren't either. It's just not a
Yeah.
thing. It's just not a thing.
And you know what? I didn't. Okay, so let me share one more story, and then I'll get into when we actually got sent to therapy.
Okay.
So we went camping with this best friend, his girlfriend, and then another buddy who was in the
Mhm.
he was the sweetest guy from Arkansas.
Okay.
He was the sweetest. I love him. He was just the sweetest guy. But we go camping, right?
Mhm.
And this night by far is the worst night of my entire life.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, this was like, I don't know what happened this night, but it was bad. He, was drinking, they're all drinking, and just it was a little bit too much. I don't even remember what we fought about. Cause when you go through like so much
Traumatic
trauma,
experiences, the
you
fog of
start
war.
yes, you start blacking all those things out. I
Mhm.
can't tell you what we fought about, but everyone was in their tent asleep, and I ran to the bathroom because there was like a little like trailer of public bathrooms, and I darted for them. I don't know why I didn't just go to the buddy's tent, but I went to the bathroom to try to find doors to like shut myself into, but I didn't make it to the bathroom. He ended up, um, like what you see in the movies where you get punched down to the ground, and every time you try to stand back up, you get kicked in the ribs, you get punched back down. Like it was one of those. And I don't know how long this, in reality, how long it lasted for, but it felt like he was kicking me in the ribs and punching me down to the ground for like 5 hours.
I'm so sorry.
When I was
Did
in the
anyone hear
moment, it
you?
felt like that. So I was screaming. I was screaming out those friends' names. And I'm like, please, so and so and so and so, please come help me. Please, please come help me. And you know what? All I heard back was, shut up, shut up. Because they were so used to us fighting all the time.
Oh my goodness.
But they had no idea what was actually happening.
Well, that's a lot to unpack there. That same scenario you just described.
Yeah.
Sadly,
Yeah.
it's very, very common where it gets to a point where you try to mentally suppress everything. When your brain goes through trauma, it automatically tries to suppress negative things because what the brain doesn't like hard things or difficult things. We learn that as far as fitness, as far as obstacles in life. We get frustrated. We get want to disassociate with a new difficulty. A lot of people can't understand the true, like, no mother, no father, no brother or sister can help prepare their child or their sibling for being in a situation like that mentally, physically, or anything. Being assaulted by somebody, and having them mercilessly beat you, it does more than just the bruises. And I often talk about the scars we don't see.
Yeah.
A lot of people
Yeah.
don't know what I've gone through in my life, and talking about it is something that's helped me. But it doesn't work the same for everybody else. And those, like, a lot of bruises stick with you forever.
Yes, they do. So that next morning, I was in those bathrooms with the friend's girlfriend, and I'm just staring at myself in the mirror, right? I got a black eye, I got a busted lip, I got like purple, cheekbones. And she's like, "Are you okay?" And I just start laughing. And I tell her, so and so did this. And she just like looks at me, and she just starts crying. Because she just realized when they were just telling me to shut up, like what was actually happening. When I tell you, and then she like hugged me, and then she's like, "Do you need anything? Like, what can we do to help you?" But at that point, I don't trust them. They weren't there for me. They were my only chance, and they weren't there for me, right? So I'm like, no, I'm okay. I'm okay. And then that same couple, for the longest was like, "Are you okay? What do you need? You know, what's going on?" And I'm like, "No, I'm fine. I'm fine." So anyways, I was in a program where I had like counseling on the ship like once every couple weeks. And the girl who was sharing a story next to me, I end up laughing and acting, I don't know what I said, but my counselor heard it. And I thought it was no big deal. It just came out like because I forgot the counselor was there and I was just talking to her
Mhm.
and something slipped out. And he looks at me and he's like, "Are you being assaulted at home?" And I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Are you being assaulted at home?" And I just started crying. And he's like, I can't keep this quiet. I hope you know that this is going up the chain of command because this is not okay." And I start bawling my eyes out and I'm begging him. I'm like, "Please don't do that. No, 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 don't do it. Don't do it." So this is when like the chain of command comes in and everyone's pissed off. Everyone's pissed off. And I go back to like, "Oh, I fucked up. Now everyone's mad at me. I fucked up." And my chief comes to me and he's like, why didn't you just come to me? I could have helped you." Because now the chain of command was trying to kick me out because I was higher ranking and all that was happening. So I was getting ready to go up to mass for it.
And it's just one up. That's kind of pathetic. I often talk about the ridiculous things that our military leadership does when they're not in a time of war. So the monotonous sit around, chip, sand, prime, paint,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
A lot of people get lost up in what's on their neck instead of
Mm-hmm.
who's in front of them. Like I
Mm-hmm.
look at the last name on the military uniform, and I remember that ties you to your mother and your father, your sisters, your cousins. You're a human being, and you're a representative of them for the defense of the country, whether you're in a war zone or not. Now that doesn't mean we sit there and care more about a rule being broken than a human being, someone's daughter, getting the shit beat out of her.
Mm-hmm.
I can't agree with that shit.
Yeah, and I was mad. Now I didn't trust my chain of command in helping me. I didn't trust anybody. And while all this was going on, they sent us to couples counseling and then another therapist and all this and all that. But nobody got me out of that apartment. So it was still going on.
And it's worse
It
now
was,
because people know.
and it's worse. So I'm like, okay, keep sending us to these freaking counselors. Okay, make me talk to this senior chief and that senior chief and this master chief and this and this and that. Can somebody get me out of this apartment? Can somebody just come and physically take me out of this situation? But no.
I like that stuff's just so enraging to me. I can't imagine being in that situation and being failed so pathetically. Yeah, I cannot imagine being put under the radar like that. Like we're all human
Yeah.
beings and we all need help.
Yep. And what really did it for me was one morning. There was like, a morning huddle between the chain of command for the departments.
Oh yeah.
And once a week I would go because of a certain job that I had in the department.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, I was very depressed. I mean, my life was, it was crap. It was crap. My head of department kept asking me the same question, like very rudely, like, "Petty officer, blah, blah, blah. When is this going to come in? When is this going to come in? When is this going to come in?" And I'm like, "I don't know, sir. They didn't give me ETA. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know, sir. I didn't get an ETA." And I just started ignoring him. He kept on. I ignore
The
him.
same question?
Yes. I just
Oh my
sat in the
God.
chair. I just sat there because I'm like, this is a grown man. What is happening right now? So when the meeting ends and everyone gets up and like, starts going to their divisions and stuff, my diva was standing next to me and he calls me front and center on this, to his fancy big old desk. And I have RBF. So I'm like, just looking at him, just like RBF. And he's like, "When Am I getting my blah, 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 blah? And I go, I don't know, sir. And because I said it like with just attitude, annoyed, just over your bullshit, this man, I can't tell you the first words verbatim what he said, but he said, petty officer so and so, you do not want to fuck with me. If you keep up with that attitude, I will jump over my fucking desk and show you. And then that's where
Oh
I
no 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 no
black
no. That no
yeah, I black out that part because that part did it for me. He basically said that that attitude that I gave him, he was gonna jump over his desk and hurt me.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
And my case had just opened. My domestic violence case had just opened on the ship. And he makes a threat like that. And I look at my Divo and she just stares at me like,
Oh, I remember her. She was great.
oh yeah, she's so sweet. But she's like looking at me like she doesn't know what to do. And he's like, dismissed. And I ran so fast, like to one of my spaces. And I am like, you know, like kicking the bulkheads and like punching things. And I'm like losing my mind.
Mhm.
I'm like, there's no way. Like, I'm gonna fucking die on this ship. Like, no one here is going to save me. Everyone here is out to get me. Like, how does my department head say that he is going to hurt me? Because I don't have an ETA for his stupid supply. My chief ends up finding me. And, you know, he's bilingual. So he's like, he sees me fucking spazzing. And he's just like, you know, in Spanish, he's like, just please calm down, please calm down. Like, don't let him get to you like that. Just please calm down, you know, like, and I was like, how could he do that? My case just opened. How could he say that to me? Blah, 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 you know, and he's
And
like,
this is
I don't
like a case
know.
that he was aware of when he said that shit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you
The
have to
whole
be
ship.
blind or fucking stupid to say something like that to any human being ever.
Yep. Yep. And you know, my chief was like, I don't know why he said that. I am so sorry. Just please calm down. Please calm down, you know. And I'm like, at that point, from then on, I was like super suicidal because like I felt like no one was going to help me here. And what I ended up learning when we were like forced to go to like couples therapy and like personal therapists was I allowed all that behavior because growing up, it was the same thing. Yes. So I was mentally um you know, told that I was never good enough, I wasn't going to be anything. I was, you know,
Oh my
I was the
goodness.
worst. You know, I was hit a lot where like CPS would always come and like all that stuff. So when in therapy, I learned that that's why I thought that that was normal for my boyfriend to do for me. I was like, "Oh my God, I have a lot more work than I thought." And my personal therapist, like now he didn't come from a broken family or anything. Like his parents were the sweetest people I've ever met. So I don't know why he's the way he is. I don't know. Um Now my personal therapist told me to make an escape bag and keep it in the trunk of my car. And then whenever I had the chance to make the run, to run. And
Because
I'm like,
you're still returning to this home with this individual.
yes,
They haven't separated you.
no,
They haven't isolated you, moved you
no.
onto a ship.
Mm-mm. I'm still there. And I'm like, you
So
know,
they're just
ma'am,
giving you lip service at this point.
yeah. And I'm like, ma'am, we literally work at the same place. Where am I gonna go? You know? And he was so controlling that as soon as I put one change of clothes in the trunk of my car, why are you doing that? Why do you have that change of clothes there? Why did you put clothes there? Where are you going? What are you planning? And I'm like, no, it's just extra gym clothes in case like I don't pack my bag one day. And he's like, we pack our bags together every single night. How could you forget a change of clothes? Why do you have that change of clothes in the trunk of the car? And I'm like, oh my God, this is never going to work ever. So we end up finishing all those little, forced therapies, whatever. I don't get kicked out.
I'm glad.
Yeah, me too. The chain of command, I guess, really did, help me there. They came through for me. I didn't get kicked out.
Well, some other members were idiots.
Yeah. Now, I will say my chief and my senior chief, I love them to death. I feel like they tried to do everything in their power. Everyone above that, I have no more feelings towards them.
Understandably so.
Yeah. So we finally get to like the deployment date, right? And we cancel, our lease, whatever. And we're trying to put all our stuff in like storage units, and he wants to get one storage unit. And I'm like, this is it. This is going to be it, because I was getting out in the middle of deployment. So he thought I was going to extend my contract, finish deployment, and we would come home together. And I'm like, no, I didn't want him to know that I wasn't. So I was like, okay, this is going to be it. This is it. This is where I run. So he wants to try to get one storage unit. I end up convincing him to get two.
Very smart.
Yeah. And one of our friends, he's like, why? He's like, I like how you snuck it in there to like convince him to get two storage units, because he helped us, because he had a truck. And he knew. He's like, you're going to make the run, aren't you? And I'm like, yes, I'm going to do it. This is it. I have to. So literally we get, our stuff in two separate storage units, whatever. We, the ship is literally pulling, away from the dock. And I look at him and I'm like, I am fucking done with you. And he's like, you say that all the time. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't think you realize, like, this is it. This is it. And he's like, yeah, we'll find out in a couple hours. And like walks off. And I did not. I was done. I started putting like mascara on and lip gloss and blush. And he came down to our office space, and he starts slamming everything on the desk, because it was like after hours. And he's like throwing like the papers that I had on the desk. He's like throwing the papers and like slamming the desk. And he's like, why the fuck you got makeup on? Who the fuck are you trying to get with here? What the fuck are you doing? You're a fucking slut. You're a fucking bitch. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm just beautiful. I'm just beautiful.
People hate it when you regain self-confidence.
Yes.
When they're so unhappy with who they are that they reach a level of violence, a pathetic level of just self-loathing that they push that on other people. It's so bad. Jealousy is the ugliest trait, and it will turn people into monsters.
Yeah, I know. And he was, just pissed off that I didn't go chasing after him, and I'm wearing makeup now, and I'm social. I'm getting, reconnected with all the friends that I didn't talk to for like a year and a half, because he had me so secluded. I start sharing with them the truth of like what really happened, and they're like, oh my God, like, oh my God. And I end up telling another petty officer about it. And I love her. She ends up kind of becoming like my mom, because she could, there was one time I was on the fantail just watching the sunset, and he comes back there. And mind you, he didn't realize that my chief was on the other end of the fantail talking to the watchstanders. But he comes, stomping in, and he's like, you're a fucking bitch. And he's like, literally, I'm running away from him, and he's chasing me, and he has like his middle finger like right up to my nose. And he's like, you're a fucking slut. You're a fucking bitch. You're not going to be anything in life. You are not going to go to school.
You better shut the fuck up.
Yeah, he's like, you're not gonna amount to nothing. You're just gonna get pregnant and be homeless, and you're not gonna finish school, and you're not gonna do this, and you're not gonna. And my chief comes darting, because I run to our office, and he comes chasing after me, and here comes my chief, like, oh my God, like he's seeing it, So I shut the door to our space. I lock it, and all, they're like just metal doors, and all you hear is boom, 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 and then you just hear my chief. And then I like wait there a couple minutes, and then I hear my chief knocking. He's like, "It's me, it's me, it's me," and I'm like, "Okay." I let him in, and he's like, "He's not allowed to come, within certain amount of distance of you. If he does, you need to let me know. He can't come near you anymore." And I just start crying, and I'm like, thank you, like, you know. So I do end up talking to somebody who is now my husband.
Yes,
we
I
end up
remember
just like,
I remember his mustache a mile away.
yeah, we were the first time we ever talked. There's no privacy on the ship. We're just talking. By coincidence, my ex comes walking through. He doesn't say anything. He just walks through. And then he comes back again and like just tosses at my feet like just random junk, like my old Nintendo and like games and like headphones and just like random stuff. And he's like, "You're a fucking slut. You fucking slut. You're a hoe." And I'm like,
what?
Oh my God. So he ends up leaving. I finished my conversation with this guy.
You're
And
dismissed.
I'm like, "I am so sorry. That was embarrassing." And he's like, "Oh, it's okay. I understand." Mind you, that friend that I told you was like my mom. She was waiting for me in our office. All the lights are off. It's like the red lights. It's night. I go to meet her in the office, and my ex was waiting there. And he's like, like the threats and trying to corner me in. And I'm like, oh my God, there's no way, there's no way, there's no way, there's no way. So I run, and she was there. So she like shuts the door, and she was like, "When does this stop?" And I'm like, I don't know. So, she makes sure that, we get back to the birthing safe and sound and everything. But yeah, it took a really long time to do that, to get that guy away from me. I ended up hanging out with him one day in England. And I'm like, like just telling him his like shit to his face. Like you were the worst thing that ever happened to me. I will never be with you again. And mind you, we're like at a like in the middle of like England, just like whatever. And I'm like, you're the worst thing that ever happened to me. Like, I'm never gonna get back with you. I really hope that you find happiness and peace in your life. And whatever it is that is hurting you, I really hope you heal. But you're done hurting me.
That's
This is
right.
like, that's it. And he's like, "Oh, well, I have all these girls after me anyway." And I'm like, good, please go. So he thought that with this adventure in England that I was like gonna come back to him. But no, I was like, please go find healing and peace and just stay away from me. We ended up going to Bahrain, and there was like tents and like trucks and stuff outside of like the pier and stuff. Now my friend, it was like the end of the night, Liberty was almost over, and she like runs to the bathroom, and I'm just kind of standing in like this corner by myself. And he walks by, and he's drunk. And he walks by, I don't say anything. He walks by again, I don't say anything. And then he comes up to my face. "You're not gonna fucking say hi to me? Who the fuck do you think you are?" And I'm just like, oh my God, when am I gonna stop running? When am I gonna stop running? And there ends up this one Airedale who's super sweet. If I could ever find this guy like on social media or something, like I have a couple words for him. He was the sweetest guy because he ran over there, and he was like, he's like really short, but he was like, "Hey man, hey, what's going on here? Like get away from her, bro. What are you doing?" And then all my girlfriends, they're like, "What the fuck?" Blah, blah, blah. So then they like, his buddies come, take him to the ship. And I'm like, okay, when is this going to end? But at this point, I started getting a little bit more serious with, who now is the guy who's now my husband. And my ex, like, I every time he will walk near him, he just puts his head down. He would never look him in the eye. he was a coward.
Mm.
Because like how if you were so you made sure that you caught me without him and would try to terrorize me every time I wasn't near him or around my friends. But the moment you walk by him in the P ways and stuff, you can't look him in the eye. He ends up leaving me alone eventually, but
Jesus. Yeah, not soon enough. I wish he would have left you alone sooner. It's
yeah,
crazy to
me too.
hear your expressions and how your timeline went and how it lines up with how I remember things, because all these memories are jogging back right into my head. And it's really frustrating that me and other people weren't able to do more to not just make you feel safe, but ultimately be safe. No one should be terrorized by somebody who nobody should be terrorized ever. You should have, I believe in bodily autonomy. I believe in other people respecting your space. I believe in other people standing up for others, random acts of kindness, true acts of bravery. All these things are important to maintain a healthy functioning society. And a lot of people failed you on this way. And
yeah.
but I am happy you're still here,
Yeah,
because
me too.
resilience is something that can be said about your story, and you still being here, because not everybody goes through these situations where they reach their lowest of the low and they are suicidal. A lot of them take that path.
Yeah, my best friend actually a couple weeks ago, she went back in her email and literally found the emails where I'm talking to her, and I'm like, my chain of command failed me. I hate this place. I'm gonna fucking do it. I'm gonna jump. I'm gonna jump. And she like screenshotted them and sent them to me, and she's like, look at this. And I'm like, wow. And I get a little sad, because I'm like, I lost trust, I lost hope, I lost everything during that time, and I loved the Navy. I loved what I did. I loved my coworkers. I loved everything of it. I loved deployment. Like I loved it all. But this gap of like, almost 2 years, like year and a half, oh, that part right there did it for me. And it's just the higher ups who failed me and stuff. But I feel like I still kind of have moments where like movie scenes, I'm like, oh, okay, I can't watch that. I don't know why the movie scenes love to kick people while they're on the floor.
Oh,
Every
man.
movie does it. Like I'm like, okay, I still can't watch that stuff. I still get very nervous around like big muscular men. They like still make me kind of nervous. But I feel like I'm doing a lot better. I haven't stopped therapy since then. And I had no intentions in like finding a relationship that fast afterwards, but it was like perfect.
Love shows up when it's supposed to, not when you want it to.
Right?
Yes,
Yeah.
and that I wish I could stop saying that, but it's the truth. Every time someone gives up, bam, this person shows up. Every time there's no light in the darkness, bam, this person shows up and lights up your world. And love is the best thing for any form of healing. So something you were talking about earlier, it really hit home with me because this happened to a friend of mine, and I was able to intervene ultimately in the situation. But this was when I was 15, and they were, we were kids, right? Ultimately, it was a DV situation at all as well, and it extended outside the home as well. And ultimately, I was able to step in, and I definitely took a lot of shots to the face. I'm honest. I was bleeding quite a bit. My lip was split. I hate getting my lip split. My lip was split in a bunch of spots. My teeth was ripping through my lip a little bit. Thankfully, I was able to intervene. But the hardest part isn't the actual physical fight. It's taking your power back afterwards and reclaiming who you are. You're not a victim. You're a victor. You're not a victim. You're a survivor. You're not. And then you go from surviving to thriving. And
Yes.
I really think that you're an excellent example of that. You know, your children are
Oh, thank
I
you.
have no doubt that your children are going to be told that they're beautiful and they're loved and all these things that you deserved to be
Yeah.
told as a child too. One of my
Yeah.
best friends, and I want to give her a shout out, one of my wife's best friends named Denise. She told
Mhm.
me about how her dad used to walk her in the mirror and say,
Mhm.
tell yourself you're beautiful and tell
Oh.
yourself you're important and you're smart and
Oh.
compliment herself. And she built that self-confidence with the help of her family. And I have no doubt that
Oh.
your experiences, it sucks you had to go through them, but you're going to be
Mhm.
able to give your children a perspective that hopefully life never does.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I it took me a couple years, but I can finally say like I'm happy
Mhm.
that it happened. I am because I would have never finally broken that cycle. I lived with it so many years, my entire life with my mother and everything, and then I allowed the boyfriend to do it to me, and that was it. It
Yeah.
ended right there. And and yes, now I have a daughter and a son, and I'm like, okay, these are red flags. This is not okay, and you will not tolerate this behavior or these actions. Like that's not okay. So I'm thankful now that it happened. Of course, there's still sadness sometimes, but
Mhm.
it's more sadness on the person that I was back then. Just, hey, girl, you're gonna make it.
I totally love that. So the last episode I had about domestic violence, because
Mhm,
there's a couple people this has really affected me. I had domestic violence in my household uh, at some of the most critical ages. A lot of people forget that it's not just your child, your child years that matter
mhm,
from 8 to 12. They say critical development. It's
mhm.
also around like 17 to 19.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
Unfortunately, like missing that parent and having them be incarcerated or whatever, and then them finally being there in your life, uh, you can want them to be the person you wish they were your whole life, and overlook certain things.
Mhm.
Um, I think it's important that any stigma that supports putting hands on someone you're supposed to love is just really ain't it. It really ain't.
Mm-mm, it ain't. It's not.
So there's going to be people that listen to this story and they're going to
Yep.
obviously have questions.
Yep.
I'm just going to ask one that after hearing yours, want to ask you.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I was a person in the military, because it happens so much, and
Mhm,
I was in a domestic violence situation
mhm.
as a man or woman, because it happens to 1 in 6 men and 1 in 3 women, and that's just what's reported. So if I was in that situation, what would your advice to me? Like you're that petty officer that you had to say, hey, you need to we're gonna figure this out. Come on, you're under my wing now. Come on, little
Mhm.
one. Like, what would you say to me?
I would say speak up. Speak up, and if your chain of command isn't listening to you or not helping you in the way that you need, like me, I needed somebody to get me out of that apartment. Um, but I wasn't voicing it. I wasn't voicing it. If your chain of command won't listen to you, then go to someone else and just keep going until somebody hears you and somebody is genuinely helping you. And if it's not anybody in the military and you have to go with the civilian route, then just do it. You'll deal with the consequences later, but I mean, you just get to safety. You have to get to safety.
Thank you.
That would be my advice.
Um, so obviously you've gone through so much in your life. What things are you extra excited out in your future that the darker parts of your life and your past are going to amplify that light in these positive moments? What is going to be amplified in the future for you now that you've had bad experiences in relationships?
It might sound corny, but okay, so everything that my ex said that I wasn't gonna be able to do, I did it all. And some. And some. Um, so those were all check boxes, but honestly now I'm so excited to the upbringing of my children because that's where I was failed the most. And that's what caused me the most pain. And obviously it ended up hurting me in my adult life of the choices that I was making in my adult life. So I'm very excited and motivated in the upbringing of my children because I know exactly what not to do.
I
And
love that.
honestly, that's the biggest one.
I love that. I just want to talk about something that really stood out to me about you in the military. To me, if there's one word to describe it, it is strength, and absolute strength. If that, seeing you sit, you weren't as tall as everybody else. I watched you stand on a folding chair. You opened a folding chair, stood on the folding chair, and yelled at someone so you could be at their eye height. So you could stick up for yourself. So I do see the strength in you and the growth, and it was during deployment. So past that point of you starting the journey to take your life back.
Yeah.
So my fondest memories with you were unrep stations, asking if you could order me stuff, knowing you couldn't, because it would be embezzlement, right? And trying to get free stuff from from the job occupation you had in the military. So I wanted to really thank you for opening up and sharing the hard parts, because there's so many positive parts that can often get overshadowed by our negative experiences, but you definitely aren't going to allow that, and you have definitely taken your life back. So I applaud you.
Thank you.
Now to the important stuff. How many guns do you own? You don't have to answer that question. Do you
Okay.
ultimately do you shoot? Do you enjoy firearms?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I live in a state currently where very tight laws, very frowned upon, very
I see.
But so I have a compound bow.
Sweet. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, in this state, that's where I kind of lean towards. But back in Florida is a different story.
Back in Florida is a different story. All right. Okay. So you do you think that there is, because I felt this personally, do you think there's some like underlying factor of power, of reclaiming power in your life when you own firearms and when you discharge them?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to check, because one of my favorite things to do when I feel stressed out, I just say, okay, it's time to go shoot guns. And sending a couple pieces of metal at another piece of metal and hearing it go bling, it's so simple.
Yep.
Pressing the finger switch, and it's I love simplicity. So
it is empowering for sure.
It definitely is. I felt that a lot of my lady friends who are survivors and now are thrivers because of their self-defense journeys. And you obviously have had quite a self-defense journey. I remember those black eyes clear as day. So did I laugh?
Yeah. I was kind of proud of myself, but then like I said, I was a little upset at myself because I scooped down to his level. But I feel like a defense class would have definitely helped me, because this dude was 3 times my size. Huge. He was huge.
Definitely didn't have half your heart. So well, I do thank you. I know it's late over there. I do thank you for taking the time away from your little ones and your husband, and obviously and your German Shepherd. So thank you so much for joining me today. And sharing your story. I'm glad we could put this together, and across time zones we made it work. So thank you so much for joining me. Just a final thought, wrapping up, to anybody who's listening, I'm going to be posting the resources. If you need help or seek help, you don't have to call. You can also text, and I'll put those numbers down below, or you can reach out to a friend. You're never alone, and don't think you are. So thank you so much for your time, and that's a wrap.